Hi, it's Ian from the Postal Hub podcast.
And Marek from Last Mile Experts.
And we are the Last Mile Prophets. This is the last word on the last mile. This video is created thanks to Modern Expo, one of the key players in the world's parcel locker market. Modern Expo's product portfolio includes innovative solutions with refrigeration and freezing cells, Bluetooth locks, and even personal parcel lockers. Marek, we're going to talk about parcel lockers. Who would have guessed it? But there's something moderately interesting happening in Germany where Deutsche Post has extended its agreement with Deutsche Bahn to have parcel lockers at train station platforms. And if I recall correctly, Marek, remember when we did our How Big Is Your Locker video? One of the big lockers was it Munich Hauptbahnhof? Or one of them. Anyway, expanding the relationship with Deutsche Bahn so there'll be more parcel lockers on train platforms, but also doing something that's a bit up your alley, Marek. Do you want to just share what's happening there?
Yeah, my understanding is that the network is at least going to be semi-open. It's a little bit unclear just how open it's actually going to be.
Yes.
But I think it's a first for Deutsche Post. It's a move in the right direction. Although, it only relates to the very limited number of lockers that are going to be there in cooperation with Deutsche Bahn, as far as I understand.
I'll stick a photo up if I can find a photo. You'll see that there's part of the lockers clearly branded DHL or Deutsche Post DHL Packstation, and the other half is branded with a smart city, which is Deutsche Bahn's little initiative to have these lockers on the platform, but they've called them click and collect lockers, I think, Mark, is the phrase they use, meaning that retailers will be able to deliver to those lockers independently of the carrier. Now, does that mean that the retailers will have to stick it in there themselves, a bit like with, who was it? Was it A1 that had to deal with Shpock, the marketplace? Do you remember that one?
I don't
Yeah,
actually
it's
remember.
a
That
couple of
could be
years
the
ago.
case, yeah.
Where the deal was, but Shpock is like your eBay kind of thing, and the sellers could just say, well, I'll put the product that I've sold, I'll put it directly into an A1 parcel locker, and then the customer could come on and collect it. And at the start, it was free, and I don't know if they then were going to bring in a charge. But this the same sort of thing that retailers will be able to put it directly in there, or do they have to then post it with an alternative carrier to Deutsche Post? I don't know.
Ian, again, I don't know. It's not something new because probably I think it's around about 8, maybe 10 years ago, Groupe Poste did something similar with a company that used to be called Neopost. It's now called Quadient. And they had a partnership to implement several, I think it was hundreds of lockers. And a small part of those was open. And I think the open ones typically are going to be related to the location. So where it's a local authority, government type institution that offers a location, they quite often today particularly would like it to be open. So I think it could have been that, Deutsche Bahn specifically said, we want these lockers to be open. It could have been even a plug and play solution that came to Deutsche Post. Look, an open network, you can use it. One thing we've got to remember, if it's the model that anyone can come and drop their parcels off in that machine, it becomes relatively inefficient. So even if it was open, and Deutsche Post will love to hear me say that, it would be a lot better if people could deliver to Deutsche Post, who then service the lockers, because instead of then having potentially several couriers delivering to that machine, one courier, high number of parcels per stop, less pollution, more efficient. So I think that actually the next step in open networks is, yes, the network is open to everyone, but it's actually serviced by one carrier.
So the loading is done by one carrier.
Absolutely.
It's somehow they're consolidating all the consignments and delivering it in one hit. The idea of lockers at train stations is not hugely new. I mean, we've seen just recently in the UK, InPost did a deal with, I want to say, Greater Western Manchester Railways or something like that. And I think Amazon has also got a deal to have its parcel lockers at train stations. So there's a bit of movement there. And pre-pandemic, that was sort of seen as an attractive location. What do you think the situation is now, Mark, with regard to train stations being an attractive location for parcel lockers?
So, Ian, yes, it's not a new thing. I think that any additional location is going to be important as out-of-home networks develop. Train stations are great for commuters. Train stations are great if they are really close to residential areas. So I would see them as a supportive tool. I can also imagine that if we start really using rail more, It could be an interesting tool for ultra fast deliveries. When I once, years and years ago, this is back in 1990, set up my own courier company, the very beginning, when we had few parcels, we actually used the trains. And what happened is we'd deliver to a railway station, for example, in Olsztyn, northeast Poland, and a courier would be waiting there to pick it up. So in this model, what could theoretically happen is parcels could be transported by high-speed trains, left at the locker at the station. Could be interesting, could be efficient. Specific use case, of course, but coming back to the original question, any locker implementation that will improve density is a good thing. If I were to choose bedroom district or a train station, I'd probably choose the bedroom district. But to supplement existing networks and places like Poland, where already you've got around about 20,000 lockers in situ, then I think, yes, it does make sense.
Because the other part of this, Marek, is consumers make choices. Now, you've sort of hinted at that when they're choosing how to use a parcel locker. If you're not a commuter, will you choose a parcel locker that's at a train station? Don't know. It's a bit like the parcel lockers that are at petrol stations. Are you going to pick up your parcel from a petrol station if you're on foot? Maybe if you live around the corner, but...
And that's exactly it, isn't it? If the train station is well located, so if it's in a village where actually it's a focal point and it's the go-to place, like a post office used to be, then...
Marek, how can you say that?
Ian, what I meant by that is quite often you don't have the post office there anymore. So in the sense that there was always a post office in every village. Whereas here, if that's the case, yes, it does make sense. But generally speaking, if it is not in a bedroom district or a super easy accessible location for a town or village or small town or village, then of course it will be a supportive tool, but it's not going to be as important.
And the other point I wanted to quickly make in this small amount of time we have left is customers also make choices based on the size of the parcel they're expecting. So if you know that you've ordered a pair of shoes, we think, well, I can pick that up and walk home with it if it's at the train station. If it's a box of wine, or half a dozen bottles of wine, you might not want, you probably can't have that delivered to a parcel locker now I think about it, but something that's a bit heavier, if you've ordered, say, textbooks for university, you're not going to want to lug all of them home under your arm if you're walking back from the train station. So I think there's that element of customer choices, location, the means of transport using, the size of the parcel. I think all of that comes together. I guess, again, Marek, a question and sort of to summarise, parcel lockers in train stations, that it's goodish. Is that sort of what we're saying here?
I think so, Ian. I think any incremental locker within reason makes sense. The better the location, or let's say this in English, a good location with one very close to the consignee. So if the train station has easy access, which typically it will have, good parking, is well located, that's a couple of ticks in a couple of good boxes. The question is proximity. My view is that generally it's going to be a nice increment to an existing network. It won't be as good as a residential. That's not what I really wanted to say. A locker in a residential area.
Yeah, and of course, where you locate the parcel locker inside the train station is also key. You don't want to have it located on a specific platform or halfway down a platform. You need it in the ticket hall, or even better, somewhere it can be accessed 24 hours a day. Maybe if there's a car park.
Absolutely, and it's you do not want it behind a restricted access area. So if it's on the platform,
which raises a whole other question, which is about vandalising and damage or potential damage to parcel lockers that are in public spaces. We don't have time for that today. There we go. We've left everybody on a cliffhanger. Comment below what you think about parcel lockers in train stations. Let us know what you think about security aspects and all those sorts of things. Get the conversation started. It's always interesting to hear other people's points of view. Thanks for watching this Last Mile Profits video on YouTube. Remember to like, subscribe, and hit the notifications bell so you get a message, an alert, a thing on your phone or your whatever every time we publish a new video. Subscribing to our channel helps us keep these videos free, and we want to keep bringing these great videos on parcel lockers and why drones are terrible to you going forward. Marek Ruzetsky, thanks for being part of the Last Mile Profits today.
Thank you, and thank you, everybody.